All right, so for today, all right, so I want maybe one student to, one or two, this, uh, let us see how, how many responses we can get. However, I want to ask the question, how is the plantation society reflected in modern Caribbean life society based on how is the plantation reflected in modern Caribbean life? Anyone? There's a student, there's no name. Could you rename yourself for me, please? Your mic is currently on. Ladies, how is the plantation reflected in the in modern Caribbean life?
Sir,
Go ahead for me, please.
I wouldn't know if this is an effect of the plantation theory, but is it that certain ethnic groups have a strained relationship between them?
So we have strained relationship between ethnic groups. All right, you're correct. That's one. Anyone else? Or is the plantation reflected in modern Caribbean life?
Sir, you could say that it's reflected through things like housing, jobs and education, because we can still see in the modern Caribbean society how lighter skinned people tend to enjoy like the better like aspects of these things. So like they have better housing, they probably more than likely have more wealth, and their children go to like better schools, you know, the top schools.
All right, very good point. Very good observation also. Anyone else? How is a plantation reflected in modern Caribbean life?
Sir, someone else in the chat.
Could you read it for me, please?
The subtle separation of races in society. I think that's what it says.
Okay, the separation of races, that is true. All right, so today we're going to look at social stratification. Thank you very much for the students who responded. And we're going to look at two authors, uh, Charles Wagley and George Beckford. Charles Wagley stated that there is rigid class lines and hierarchical class relations on the plantation, and it is still reflected today. And George Beckford observed that slavery society would not stand for long without internal class struggle. Now, what is social stratification?
So you're asking us?
Yes, what is social stratification?
So social stratification is basically when society places its people in different ranks based
Mm-hmm.
on certain factors like wealth, education, their race, and like their power, like their status, political power and stuff like that.
Very good. Anyone else? Social stratification. What is social stratification?
So I think social stratification is basically the groups being assigned in the society by the people who live in it in terms of grouping grouping them by what they have in common. So in terms of who has money or who does what type of job.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. And so, uh, for social stratification, there's one thing that we need to know, and both of you are correct. There's one element of the plantation society which is rigid class structure, meaning that society is stratified, which both students would have mentioned that social stratification refers to the ranking and the dividing of groups in society based on ethnicity. So you're divided based on your ethnicity, your race, your class, your historical background, and citizenship is also things that you are ranked in a society. Because if you live in some societies that are immigrant driven, where there's a lot of immigrants in the society, places like the Bahamas, Bar- the Bahamas, Barbados to some extent, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, these territories, uh, and more recently, well, not recently, but Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad is also another example, where in these societies you have a lot of immigrants, meaning people coming from elsewhere to work. And so in those societies, people are stratified based on their citizenship, whether or not they have citizen, whether they are a citizen of the country or not. So for example, in Trinidad and Tobago right now, you have a lot of Venezuelans, refugees living in Trinidad. And there's some level of stratification because the Venezuelans are, because of their, one, they speak Spanish, two, their country is in economic turmoil. And so the Venezuelans, quite a lot of them go on the boat and move to Trinidad, where, because Trinidad is just next door them. And so they go to Trinidad where they try to establish settlement. They don't have citizenship, they don't have access to some of the things that the citizens have, and so they are ranked lower in that society, the Venezuelans, right? The Cayman Islands is another example where you have a lot of immigrants within that society. And as a result of that, there's a lot of tensions between immigrants and those who are from there. And because of that tension, people are ranked in that society based on their citizenship. If you're a Caymanian or you're not a Caymanian, the same thing in the Bahamas. Uh, Another place is the British Virgin Islands would be one. Another one would be Turks and Caicos. That citizenship is used to rank people within a society. And these societies are generally uh, immigrant based. Now, you also have societies that people are ranked based on their ethnicity and based on their race. Uh, there are other ranking that we use to rank people within society based on prestige. We rank people based on prestige. We rank people based on wealth. We rank people based on gender, caste, which is this system is in still linked to wealth, but to some extent, the caste system is really something that is in India, and also people are ranked based on their religion. And so in society, we tend to rank people. People are, the society tend to rank us. Uh, on the slave plantation, the Caribbean slave plantation, uh, it was also stratified. So you had the whites at the top, the coloreds in the middle, the blacks at the bottom. Uh, the white society was also stratified because you had the rich whites versus the poor whites. And so if we look at how the whites rank themselves, it is based on their wealth. So the rich white is based on their wealth, the poor whites, they don't have any money. The colored and the enslaved people during the slave plantation, they were ranked based on their occupation and their color of their skin and also gender, right? So color of skin, occupation, and gender. These are the different ways in which enslaved people and the colored in the society would have ranked themselves. So for example, the colored, yeah, the colored, which is like the mulattoes. Then you also, within that same grouping, you had the artisan slaves who were the skilled workers, those who were like the carpenters, uh, the, the locksmith, sorry, not locksmith, the blacksmith that deals with welding of the irons and all of these different stuff. And also you had the domestic slaves, which was mostly people from color who were domestic slaves. And so what we are seeing here is that within this group, people are ranked based on, our enslaved people were ranked based on their color of their skin, their occupation, gender, and also within this group, you also had free blacks, blacks who would have received their freedom, who were in the middle strata of the society. At the base of the society, you had the first gang that usually worked in the field, you have the second gang, and also the third gang. The third gang made up mostly or mainly of the children, and the older people are not able to work. And so we know for sure that slave society was very stratified. Uh, Another thing is that social mobility actually means that people can move up the social ladder. You can move from one class to the next. And in slave society, it was basically, it was closed. Not closed for everybody, but it was closed. Uh, the colored and the blacks were not able to move up to the upper strata of the society. The upper strata of the society tends to be controlled only by the white. So the white, the colored or artisan or domestics or the first or second or third gang, they could not move up into this ranking, the upper class. While you had enslaved, well, those who were at the base, such as the people from the first gang were able to move up as domestic slave or artisan slave based on their occupation. They gain a skill. They move from the field, they put them in the house to work, or you get some form of skill job to do. So there was some form of mobility between this strata and this strata, but nobody was able to enter this strata. However, scholars point out that slave society was a very closed society. After slavery ended, which is emancipation, in Jamaica, it still continues. You had the whites at the top. You had persons who were considered to be socially white, the colored, the Indians, and the blacks at the base. So this was the Jamaica slave society after slavery ended. In Trinidad, it was a little different after slavery ended. You had the whites at the top, the colored in the middle, the blacks at the bottom, the blacks as the third strata, and at the base, the Indians were at the base in Trinidad. Now, when we look at social stratification, one scholar by the name of Stanley Reed identified that in Jamaica, there's 21 families. There's 21 families that control the means of production in Jamaica. So, and one of the things that he would have looked at was the directorship of boards in Jamaica, corporate boards. And out of the corporate boards in Jamaica, these are companies in Jamaica, that 21 family made up 70% of board chairmen in Jamaica. So they were in charge of 70% of the directorship of board. 21 families would have controlled out of 219 corporate boards that existed in the 1970s, they controlled 125. That is just one family. Sorry, 21 families controlling this amount. Some of the names of the 21 families include the Asherims, the Denos and Geddes, which is DNG, the Enriquez, the Matalan, the Isaac, the McConnells, the Levy. And these individuals, these are examples, they controlled finance, construction, manufacturing, law, tourism, agriculture. They control almost every single industry in the society. Even if we look at Jamaica immediately after, not immediately after slavery ended, but in our immediately before we got independence and post independence, you'll realize that most of our leaders were from a particular skin complexion in our society. And the same thing, these 21 families, they were of lighter skin. And Anya Samuels made a very important point. She said that it is often said that on the island of Jamaica, there's 21 families, and any of those families are black. So you don't have black within the 21 families that control almost every single thing in this country. So which points us back that the slave society is still here. Just like in the day of slavery where the coloreds were on, the whites and the coloreds were on top, in modern day Jamaica in the 1970s, most of the persons who were at the apex of the society, they were actually white or colored. If we look at some of the persons in our society today, so which is not a part of the 21 families, but they are newly, I wouldn't say that they are new wealth, because if we should do some form of family tracing, they would still lead to some point to the 21 families, with the exception of the Leachin and Lascelles and the Henrik, Henrik, Hendrickson, right, for this group. Now, for Butch Stewart is one, white. I think his father came from London and his mother had roots in St. Anne. And so Butch Stewart and his family owned a we call it now. His family owned a electronics store. And out of Butch Stewart, you had today, he owns Sandals Group, which is a big hotel. You have Sandals Hotel in the Bahamas, you have Sandals in Turks, you have Sandals in Barbados, you have Sandals in Grenada, you have Sandals going into Tobago. I'm not sure if they finished building. You have Sandals going into St. Vincent, Antigua. And so Bootstrap is very wealthy. And he also, so Sanders is one, and then he also owns the ATL group. Now, if you know the ATL, they sell things like the furniture appliance, electronic appliance. They bring in some of the brand cars into Jamaica, all the different name brand vehicles. He also owns CVM, Jamaica, the Jamaica Observer, and when Air Jamaica was around, he had partial ownership of Air Jamaica. So this is a very wealthy Jamaican, Butch Stewart, right? He's not a part of the 21 families, but new families who would have they are basically very wealthy today. Then you have the Hendrickson. They control National Bakery. They own the Pegasus Hotel, the Courtly, Knoxford Court Hotel, and quite a lot of other places. Uh, uh, the Asherims for this group, they were the ones who gave Jamaica College the money, I believe over 100 million, to build their not national stadium, but the stadium which is at Jamaica College, and it is named after them. Uh, all the boys from this family, the Asherims, they went to Jamaica College. The same thing with the Hendrickson. They are JC old boys, and they call Hendrickson was the one who actually gave JC the money to build their auditorium that they have today. So quite a lot of wealthy people here. We have the Lascelles, we have Leachin that owns NCB and Guardian Insurance and quite other places. And you have people like the Vaz family who is political, but they also own quite a lot of things in the country. And then you have new wealth in the country also, like Peter Bunting, who is in politics, and he used to own, what do you call that place again? You know, the Knoxford Court Express bus that travels from
Kingston
Kingston.
to Mobay and then Kingston,
Yes,
Mandeville.
yes. So he owns this, and he also owned at the time, I believe, Golden Bunting and Golden, which is now Scotia Insurance. I believe that's it. And so the Bunting family, well, not really Bunting family, because the family was not, the father was a farmer, not a small farmer, but a large farmer. So the father would have some level of money, but the son inherit wealth. The son would have done quite a lot of investment. And the Vaz, same thing with the Bunting, they are involved in quite a lot of real estate. So a lot of these apartments that you're seeing going up in Kingston, they are involved in the building of these apartments, right? But if you, with the exception of Bunting here, if you look at the color of most of these persons who we consider to be highly wealthy in the Jamaican society, they are all of a particular skin complexion. Christine Barrow also mentioned that in Barbados, they had the same phenomena as Jamaica, where there's 12 families that control the means of production. So in Jamaica, there are 21 families. They control quite a lot of things, but in Barbados, there's 12 that controls the other. The other islands, I don't believe anybody has done any studies on the other islands to see our Caribbean territories to see the family linkage between wealth in those places. But for Jamaica and Barbados, it is clear that the families that control things, most of the things in this country, are people who are quite well, not quite wealthy because they are wealthy. They are of a particular skin complexion. Now, if we look at social stratification today in Jamaica and also in the Caribbean, it's not only persons who would have inherited wealth or not because they control. I want to even mention the Matalan. You see, all the houses that were in Portmore, all of those homes in Portmore, they were built by the Matalans, right? Quite a lot of, and they control 70% of the chairmanship in the 1970s. I'm not even sure what it is like today. And not only the corporate boards they control, but they also control the public boards because the government, whether PMP or JLP, they appoint them as chairmen of the board. The thing in Jamaica is that one thing that we need to know in Jamaica is that Jamaican society is very, 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 very classist. And so I want to bring you to Carl Stone's study before I go to New Wealth. Carl Stone divided the Jamaican society based on classes in the 1970s, right? And for Stones, at the lower, the base of the society, which made up of majority of the people in the society, yes, because if you should calculate it, 28 plus 23, 25, the majority of this, the lower class, as he mentioned, they were the small farmers, the igglers, the petty traders, those people that go around and sell goods, the vendors, the small contractors, the working class, people that go around and do the unemployed. And so in the 1970s, you have 25% of the Jamaican population that was unemployed. Nothing has really changed since then. But one of the things for sure is that if we look at this group here at the base of the society, majority, if not all of these persons at least the base, they are Black. You're not going to find a Chinese here, but you might find Indian within this bracket because you have very poor Indians in Jamaica, right? So this group, the lower class, tend to make up mostly of Blacks and Black Indians. The lower middle class and the upper middle class, you have also Blacks within these groups. And so Carl Stone did not directly mention about the colored here, because by the 1970s in Jamaica, the lower middle class would include things like the professionals. Lower middle class include people like the nurses, the teachers, the police officers, and they made up of 18% of the society. While another group, this person would include person like people who actually own properties and you rent the properties or lease the properties. Some people that own very large stores, shops. businessmen, large or middle scale farmers. So those persons were also part of the lower middle class. So you had the lower middle class, the lower class and the lower middle class, and the upper middle class includes persons like the politicians in the society, upper middle class, those who were like the university lecturers, the politicians, university lecturers, those who control government agencies and ministries, those who are taking home the 4 or the 5 or the $6 million per year. People within the lower middle class today earns below 600,000 for the year. And so, and not everybody within that group. So if we do 600,000 below 600,000 in the lower middle class, they take home less than $50,000 for the month within this group. While within this group here, the professionals, if we should do a rough estimation of 2 million per year, and you should divide it, this group takes home approximately about 160,000, could be a little higher, but the average salary within this group is about 160,000 per month. Really not the average, but that would be the highest scale because people within this group is taking home 100,000 and also 60,000. This group, which is the administrative part, which include people like principals and the government agents, persons who control the government agencies, the politicians, their salary rank would be maybe 500,000, little lower, and some could be above that scale. But the persons who are taking home the $3 and the $4 and the $5 million per month are people within the upper class here. And these groups, they are the managers of very large firms or middle scale private firms like insurance companies, uh, the what else these persons would, they own quite a lot of land. There's something that Carlstone mentioned that in this study is that he's talk about a group that is called socially white. Meaning in his study, socially white would include persons like the Chinese or the lighter skinned Indians, or persons who a black person mixed with a white person. You have all different type of mixture, but you have but they behave as if they are part of the white group on the slave plantation, like what was on the slave plantation. And so he mentioned about socially white. But there's one thing that we need to know, ladies, is that our society is very, very stratified. You have different classes or different stratas within our societies. And then while this is true, in today's society, we are able to move up the social ladder. So social mobility is possible. So people can move from the lower class to the lower middle class. People can move from the lower class even to the upper class. People can move from the lower middle class to the middle class, and you can move from the upper middle class to the lower class. So in our society today, social mobility happens. It can happen from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top. You are able to move up the social ladder in today's society. And then some ways in which we're able to move up the social ladder is through acquisition of new wealth. Acquisition of new wealth is one way in which people tend to move up the social ladder. So for example, you have people that migrate, they go abroad, they work very hard abroad, they send back their money, they open business, they invest in something, and they are just making it happen. So somebody can be very dirt poor, as we would say, they never have a thing, but somebody just sorry for them and them end up in the US. They work very hard in the United States. They come back, they build their nice mansion in Mandeville, and they open their nice store in Mandeville, and so they are able to move up the social ladder through migration. Also, we cannot ignore the illegal activities where people acquire wealth. So people acquire wealth through scamming, drug trade, extortion in the Jamaican context. The drugs is for every single Caribbean country where drugs trade, illegal trading of drugs, people make money from that and acquire wealth. People also move up the social ladder through, we call it now, politics. You have people like Portia Simpson Miller, Andrew Holness, Desmond Mackenzie. These are persons who are from the lower class, but they are able to move up to the upper middle class based on their involvement in politics. And the reason why I choose these persons is because none of the above did not have a career outside of politics. Portia Simpson Miller, her only career is politics. Andrew Holness, as don't care how Jamaicans want to think he's the best thing since bread was created. His only job that he has done outside of volunteering for Edward Siaga is politics. So all of his wealth came through politics. He did not have a profession prior to entering politics. Same thing with Desmond Mackenzie. And there's other politicians with the same stuff, but because these persons are very, very prominent in our political space today, I mention them. And so people move up, getting involved in politics, they acquire new wealth through migration, illegal means. And another way people get wealth is through education. Uh, and we cannot ignore education, although I don't really believe in this education thing because you have too much educated poor people around. People have them big degrees, masters, a lot of masters, a lot of PhDs, a lot of this, a lot of certificates, and they're not making any money. They can hardly survive. So at the end of the day, education is a means in which we are able to get certain jobs because through education, you are able to acquire wealth, you are able to get certain job. When you're educated, you tend to have certain friends, or you go to certain school, you go to university with certain people, you mix with certain elites, and so you get some links and networking, so you are able to move up. And so education is very, very important. And I believe it is the best way of social mobility. But I believe that Caribbean societies are anti-people who are educated. Then people move up the social ladder through marriage. You're poor, you're a rich, well, you're a poor boy. I'm going to use the case of a boy, very poor. You see one nice girl, she have some money, her family have money, you're married into the family. The family give you some money to invest in a business. You're able to move up. Same thing with the female. And also, people move up the social ladder through their ability. Ability, so sports, if you're a sports star, you're able to move up. People like Usain Bolt, Shelley and Fraser, Brian Lara, those persons move up the social ladder because of their, we call it now, ability, sports. And so Usain Bolt is very wealthy today. Same thing with Shelley and Fraser Brand, and they are coming from very poor families. Yes. And you have the music industry where most of our musicians are come from very, very poor families, but they are able to make it. People like Popcorn, Cartel, the Marleys, even though the Marleys kind of take on this.
The wealth of their father.
Yes, they take on the wealth of their father, but at the end of the day, Bob Marley wasn't wealthy. Bob Marley's mother was very, very poor. The father was white, but the father neglected him and he grew up with his mother and he was quite poor. But the Marley family inherit quite a lot of the wealth from the father. And so they are pretty wealthy today because even today, Bob Marley, even though he's dead, he's still making a lot of money in today's society. And then nobody cannot talk about Spice. Yes, I tend to watch a lot of Spice live on Instagram. The Spice is her story is another story that is another success story. And I kind of like the whole idea of the popcorn uh like Rags to Riches story too. And also people move up through drama and performance art. So ladies, we know for sure that people are able to move up the social ladder today. Now, for the next few, any comments thus far are from your own observation? Any comments? All right, since no one has anything to say, all right, so I'm going to show you, we call it now. Uh, so looking at the different ways in which people would have moved up the social ladder, right? There's a song that Popcorn did some years ago, and I believe this song it tend to explain to some extent the. Or before I go to Popcorn, I should just go to Bolt. I think Bolt is somebody who we have to look at Bolt. His experience here in Jamaica. Oh,
classism or racism
ladies, are you
in Jamaica.
hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
definitely, you know.
You experience that in
Yeah,
Jamaica?
man. A lot.
Even though you're so famous and
Yeah, because people,
you, have you ever experienced classism or racism in Jamaica?
yes, definitely, you know.
You experience that in
Yeah,
Jamaica?
man. A lot.
Even though you're so famous and
Yeah, because people,
you,
people look at things as you're coming up and you're building yourself. And a lot of people don't want to see that, you know. And that, it's just life.
that's the people in Jamaica.
I've learned to just understand that not everybody's gonna appreciate what you have done. You understand? Some people, especially when I started out, it was more shocking than anything. That's why I said you have to learn from experience.
Yes.
And when I started out, that's how I ended up buying my house. Because I was living in a complex.
Yes.
And I had issues with a few of the
lighter skin people.
You understand?
Why? Because you're
And I
bringing your
remember
dancehall friend, them wanna make up
no,
nice in the
surprisingly,
area.
no, I used to live near a lawyer. And I remember when I moved in, he said to me, listen, be careful now. I said, what do you mean? He said, they don't like to see young people strive because when I came in here, I was just 23.
Yeah.
And then they weren't happy to see me in this complex. And I couldn't believe it. And when it started happening to me a couple of times, I said, no, I have to buy a house and move us. I can have my own place.
You see,
so I had to
so
rush and get
experience
my
that.
house. Yeah, man.
Some of the lighter skin people,
They're not too happy
they weren't.
to see it because a lot of them, because them go school and work years and years for reach.
True, and you just come.
And me just come up. Because I suppose me get everything and me I live here, so me I do this. Them not happy.
So bad mind is a part. You experience bad mind in Jamaica.
Strong man, strong.
Strong bad mind.
Strong.
From people in the upper class too.
From people in the upper class. Most of the people in the upper class because
most of the people in the upper class.
they get a youth and everybody has love me and them want to see me and them.
Yes. Yes.
Them just happy to see me,
They see
understand? And them
themselves
I
in
say,
you.
boy, thanks to Jamaican, boy, really.
Yeah.
Even people see me and say, boy, even that I went to Miami for a shoot, and I remember a Spanish, a Latino guy was saying to me, listen, I've seen a lot of celebrities come through here, and you are one of them, the one that I love the most. Why? Because you have come from nothing and you have stayed humble, and I respect that about you. And for me, that make you feel good.
Yes.
You understand? So something I really love.
Important disclosures on profile. Hussein has experienced discrimination, classism, racism in his own country. This will continue to be a talked about interview. We take a final break.
All right, so we have the experience of Usain Bolt right here, who he mentioned that he experienced classism and racism in Jamaica, even though he's quite wealthy, uh, and all of that. And you know what is also shocking is that I always say to people that before I went to Jamaica College, I had no idea that society was structured along class lines. The and living outside of Jamaica for 7 years, maybe classism exists in Barbados, but I never come in contact with it. Uh, but living outside of Jamaica for 7 years, I was basically shielded from a lot of the classist things. Uh, Teaching at St. Andrew is a perfect example where some parents feels that because you're a teacher, so they have a perception of teachers. They want to speak to you uh, in a negative way. And it comes off very, very wrong. And that is something that I've observed in that school when I just started teaching there, where people, some of the parents feel that because you're a teacher, they want to control you as a teacher, and that is something that is I've seen. And it's a reflection not only in the Jamaican society, because people that if you're a teacher, you're a police, you're a nurse, people tend to look down on those professions because they know that we are not making any money. The other examples here of where it is. So we look at the example of this person, which is bold, which is very shocking because when both made that statement, a lot of people, they were very shocked about it. Let us look at this.
Test scores and appearance of time. All right, guys. So, judging by the caption, you already know what we're doing today. The kids are in the car, so this is my little time to tell you what's happening, okay? I already bought a house, and I bought a house like a month ago, but the kids don't know. We saw that house during quarantine, and they really loved it. But what I did, I went and I did a whole renovation. I did over everything. I fixed their rooms to exactly how they wanted it. I just got to surprise them today. So I'm super happy. I'm excited. The kids are going to be happy because I bought them a house. We're in Atlanta and they're going to be happy. So stay tuned, guys. It's a wrap. It's a little secret until the reveal. Don't move. What's up, guys? Welcome to another one of Spice Official World. That's right, you heard right, it's Spice World. And judging by the topic, you already know what time it is. We are house hunting, baby. So this is our first location, and we're here with Brandy. Yes, hey y'all. My realtor, my big top of the top realtor. You know I give her a lot of trouble. This is not our first house hunting. We've been doing this for what, a month?
2 months. No, from we came here. So that's probably like
2 months, okay.
That's more accurate.
All right, so we've been, I'm kind of picky, and the kids, them want this, I want that. So I'm basically looking for like high ceiling, a big kitchen, because I don't know, so I'm a big chef. I can cook. Someone wants a big kitchen. What do you want, Toy?
A big room and a pool and a big backyard. Big backyard.
Big backyard. Nicholas want to play soccer, so Brandy have a lot our work cut out for her. So this is our first house. Let's see. Let's check it out. Woo, woo. All right, guys. What do you think about?
All right, ladies, and shockingly, not shockingly, but this is Spice, who dancehall artist, through her talent, her ability in the music industry, she was able to move up the social ladder. That now this year that she bought a house in Atlanta, and she might have several houses in Jamaica, but she was able to move up the social ladder through her ability. And shockingly, this is the shocking part of it, is that even though she's quite wealthy, she experienced her classism in Jamaica. And so there's a statement that emanates from people of the upper classes that a butu in a Benz is still a butu, meaning that even though you can afford a Benz and I might be driving a Toyota RAV4, at the end of the day, you are nobody. You could be wealthy, you could live right next to me, you're still nobody. A butu in a Benz is still a butu, right? And so we have that example. You can go on to YouTube and you can watch the videos from it. And then there's the other young man by the popcorn. He recently got some award, and what the song he did? Something about dream. Is it? And somebody help me out, please.
My dream.
My dream. Thank you very much.
De Niro. Look how much you they achieve.
All right, ladies. So with this song by Popcorn, as you can see, it's a social commentary on his background. You hear all of what he would have gone through, and then he mentioned that since he get the song, everything come like a dream. So it basically changed his economic situation. So if we look at the, where you call it now, if we look at stratification in our society, we know people can move up the social ladder today. And even though people move up the social ladder, there's people from the lower strata still tend to experience the, we call it now, classism or racism. I would encourage you to go on, what's his name? Orlando Terry Long. This week he would have posted something about growing up in Grand Spen. His mother used to sell panty, as that is what he said, in the market. And he went through education, he went to Campion, he's an attorney, went into politics, and he is now doing well through education. So people are, not only people can move up the social ladder through, we call it now, through music or through sports or illegal means. Education is still the most viable way of moving up the ladder. All right, ladies, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye bye.